So yesterday we talked about the situation surrounding MrBeast and his former sidekick, Kris Tyson, all of the allegations that have been leveled against Kris Tyson, and we were wondering why it took MrBeast so long to officially cut ties with this person. But finally, MrBeast has broken his silence on the situation and released a statement himself. He tweeted yesterday, "Over the last few days, I've become aware of the serious allegations of Ava Tyson's behavior online, and I am disgusted and opposed to such unacceptable acts. During that time, I've been focused on hiring an independent third party to conduct a thorough investigation to ensure I have all the facts. That said, I've seen enough online and taken immediate action to remove Ava from the company, my channel, and any association with MrBeast. I do not condone or support any of the inappropriate actions. I will allow the independent investigators the necessary time to conduct a comprehensive investigation and will take any further actions based on their findings." Meaning a lawsuit, possibly?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. But you didn't need a months-long investigation to find out about this stuff. At least the information about Kris Tyson purchasing sexualized illustrations of children was public for years before this. I don't know why it took so long to get mainstream attention or to catch MrBeast's attention, given the fact that that illustration was hung up in his house when they were roommates. But, you know, I seem to think he was avoiding the situation, avoiding addressing it because it implicates him. And a former crew member at the company also made a video saying that the reason MrBeast took so long to officially fire Kris Tyson is because he was worried about his own reputation and ways that it might implicate him legally speaking. He was worried that Kris Tyson would hit him with a lawsuit for discrimination, perhaps.
Yep.
For
like what, transphobia,
perhaps, like, yeah, gender discrimination or gender identity discrimination, I guess, in this case. And I wouldn't put it past Kris Tyson to go down that avenue. But Lava, that's the screen name of the individual who was the alleged victim of Kris Tyson's grooming allegations, responded to MrBeast and said, "I commend MrBeast for taking this situation seriously and hiring an investigator while also taking appropriate actions of cutting ties with Ava. While the allegations involving my name aren't true, I feel there is still a lot of other allegations that deserve to be investigated thoroughly."
A lot of people would dispute that claim because they believe that as Lava was under 18 when all of this happened.
Not just under 18, but a literal middle schooler.
Yes. Like that as somebody who
supposedly like 13
years old.
Yes.
So as somebody who wasn't an adult, you can't consent one way or the other, so it doesn't matter whether you think it's real or not.
Right. And it's not normal for a 20-year-old to just be casually friends with a 13-year-old, regardless of what you're talking about privately or publicly.
It's one thing if it's like your cousin and you're hanging out and you're like an older figure in your cousin's life, but it's weird to just randomly befriend a 13-year-old if you're a grown man in your 20s. That's just bizarre.
And then there's the added layer where there's I hate this term because it's misused so much, but there is a power imbalance between the two of them, given that Kris Tyson had a public presence and was famous and connected to this guy's, idol at the time. So there was that added layer of toxicity as well. But then an additional person has come out to accuse Kris Tyson as well, saying that Kris Tyson preyed on him when he was 15 years old in the same Discord server. Drama Alert posted the video if you want to take a look at that.
Kris Tyson from MrBeast used me, manipulated me, and did very inappropriate things with me while I was about 15 years old. I was actually friends with Lava GS at the time, who is the main victim of Kris that everyone has been talking about these last few days, who claims he isn't a victim, but we all know he is, and we all know he probably got paid off. Not only that, but he's also under an NDA from when he worked for MrBeast Gaming for 2 years, and he tried to get me to join MrBeast Gaming himself, Lava. He's the one who actually sent me the contract and tried to get me to sign the NDA, at which point I ended our friendship because I knew they were just trying to silence me. Me and him were both initially involved in running Kris's Discord server, helping him set up his Twitch streams and moderating them.
Nate's calling me. Hey, what's up? You're on stream.
You just leaked your address. Please end your stream.
as well as other technical back-end things that he needed help with. This Discord server that we were a part of had about 10 people in it, most of whom were minors. I'm not sure how they got in there, other than me and Lava. He won a giveaway and Kris invited him after that. And Kris invited me after I saw one of his tweets asking for help setting up a Garry's Mod server for the 10 million subscriber MrBeast video. This turned into us having lots of private conversations with Kris and playing video games with him for hours on end. Not only did we do a lot of unpaid work for him that he promised he would pay us for, he would also frequently bring up sexual topics that was definitely not appropriate to bring up around 15, 16-year-olds, especially with him being like, I don't know, 20, 21 years old. He would even go as far as linking me several different porn and hentai videos throughout the time of me talking with him. Not only that, but he had an NSFW bot in his Discord server before he made it public. So when it was just a private server, his little circle of minors. And he would use this NSFW bot to spam different corn images, alongside all these 15-year-olds. He would also frequently call me dad and daddy as well as the others, which I guess we all kind of just took as a joke at the time. You have to think this is someone who we looked up to at the time, we idolized, we thought was the coolest person in the world, so they couldn't really do any wrong in our eyes. But looking back, I was definitely uncomfortable at being called daddy by a 20-year-old. Even just thinking about it now, it's just uncomfortable. This server later went public and became his official Discord server, but before it did, he had me and Lava spend multiple days scrubbing this Discord server clean of all of the N-words he had sent in it, as well as his friends, as well as deleting the NSFW channels and making sure no one could see that he was spamming corn to minors. This story is so much bigger and runs so much deeper than any of you really realize, so if you want to hear more and you want a part 2, let me know.
Yeah, so that guy's name is Nathan. I had no idea that he was involved, but I have no idea why Lava, we don't know his real name, but Lava continues trying to sort of soften the blow on Kris Tyson, make it seem like he is not being credibly accused. We don't know all the details, obviously.
Probably he thought that they were friends. Probably in his, like, 13-year-old mind, this was an older person that he looked up to. He probably saw him as some kind of mentor, you know, as horribly sick and twisted as that is.
There was
right,
Lava's
and now
response
that
there.
Now that Lava is an adult, he continues trying to help Kris Tyson's public image, even though he does seem to be a victim in this situation. So he posted this in response to Nathan trying to discredit some of the things he said in this video. He said, "Yes, I know him. A lot of statements he made in that video about me are completely untrue. I was friends with him. We played games together and worked on the Discord. He was later removed from the Discord because of how unstable he was. He would lash out and verbally attack other members of the team. I never sent him any contract, and I have not been under NDA since 2022. I have not received any payment, nor are any of my socials monetized. I did inform him that he might be offered a job to help work on the Minecraft videos around the time I was, but that never happened. We did not scrub the Discord clean of racist remarks or corn. We did convert the Discord from a private one to public in a day after it had been made public. This involves setting up mod bots and channel permissions. We also had never done unpaid work. At no point was there any agreement that we would be paid for anything we worked on. Nathan has since deleted his Discord messages between me and him. He also deleted his original Discord account. Nathan was more involved with Jake the Viking. Here is a video with Nathan in it and being tagged as the editor." So he didn't really refute the most sickening claims made in that video, which are that Kris Tyson was sending links to porn videos to minors.
Yeah, he didn't refute that.
He didn't refute the most serious claims that Nathan made in that video. And I saw some of the screenshots between Lava and Kris Tyson's public communication on Twitter, where Lava was making jokes, possibly jokes, about Kris Tyson's hentai addiction.
Yeah.
And it's funny, this came up earlier in the show. We were talking about the, porn addiction to transitioning pipeline that seems to exist. And that seems to be the case with Kris Tyson, but we're muzzled because we're on YouTube right now. We can't exactly talk honestly about that subject. I can't understand why you would publicly defend Kris Tyson at this point.
Yeah.
I'm not saying everything being said about him is true. There's a lot of misinformation, just like there is about anything. But to say that this is an example of a transphobic attack, or to take Lava at his word when he says he wasn't a victim, even though you don't know all the facts, is just blatantly defending someone because they identify as trans. It's like the number one way to avoid accountability.
That's what people do. Like if you've seen a lot of the pushback against, you know, whenever it turns out that a trans person has been guilty of some, or accused of, or whatever, some horrible things, right? You see a lot of the pushback is it's transphobic to say anything negative about a trans person. It's
Not only that,
it's like this ultimate shield, you know?
People are saying that, oh, the stuff about him purchasing these sexual illustrations of children was out for years while he was still identifying as a man, but now that he identifies as a woman, now is when you want to talk about it? Like, okay, but he did that. Like, so are we going to talk about it or not?
Yeah.
Right.
It's not transphobic to bring it up now just because he identifies as trans now. And it's not being brought up solely because he identifies as trans.
There was other things, like there was obviously the less abhorrent, just edgy humor that came out before all this happened anyways. Plus, like you said, newspaper articles from Rolling Stone, news articles came out, you know, labeling this as transphobia rather than what it was, which was a very specific case of an adult grooming a child.
And they're trying to actually make MrBeast the bad guy in this situation for cutting ties. Finally, like I think MrBeast should be getting criticized for not cutting ties early enough.
Yeah, that was going to be my question for this, which was that, like, how do you feel about his... Because what he says here, he says, I'm just now finding out, and I don't think anybody actually believes that to be true, but there is an argument to be made, I'm sure, to people in business. Like, do you address the potentially business-ending thing now, or do you just wait it out and hope that nobody knows? Because I'm not talking about his morality on this. I don't think morality for the businessman here, plays any role in it. Like when somebody offers their apology or gives you moral grounds for their problems, I don't buy that's the reason why he's making a statement now. He's making a statement now because the public outcry is too great, and he has to. But this is what happens, right? Like, as a business owner, he's deciding, like, look, all this stuff happened, and I'm gonna just wait to bring it up because maybe it just never comes out.
Yeah. I don't know what the right answer is from a PR perspective. Like, obviously,
like, do you get out in front of it and talk about it yourself, or do you wait for the media to catch on? And that's what happened.
It does seem like MrBeast just wanted to be really as far removed from the whole, you know, Kris Tyson thing as possible. Like, going back to when he came out as trans, and like,
well, he had that statement recently.
His family broke up and all of that stuff, and he was just like, oh, this person is on the show anyway. You know, he just like didn't want to be involved in it.
But just recently, the pictures of Kris Tyson's son wearing the heels resurfaced again,
right,
and it became a thing again, and he made a statement about that, where I think that was actually in this tweet here when they were talking about it, and they do address it, that he did a lot of times he would probably just ignore it, but he didn't just ignore it, he actually made a statement on it. So
Kris Tyson did?
No, MrBeast. Remember, he said
made a statement on the high heels thing?
He said he's not my nightmare. He's remember that?
Right. MrBeast defended Kris Tyson up until the very moment where it became disadvantageous to do so.
Correct.
Which makes him seem two-faced,
a little opportunistic.
Yeah, opportunistic, focused mainly on his public image and not about the well-being of his audience, which everyone knows is majority made up of children and teenagers.
I mean, this is kind of the truth. He just happens to be the face of a very large corporation, but this is true of most businesses, right? They're not concerned with safety or morality. They're concerned with continuing to grow their business. Now, for most people, that's okay. But when it involves children and when it involves cases like this, especially for companies that are geared towards children, the same thing is true of Disney. When people criticize, these types of things happening at Disney or any other corporation, that people hold that to a different standard than they do if it's just typical corporate backlash for any other reason.
If you're willing to criticize Disney for the same reasons, you should be willing to criticize MrBeast for the same reason. Even though he's an individual, he has a huge company he's making millions upon millions of dollars doing what he does. He should be held accountable. And I think that, this is probably a reason why a lot of people keep work and family separate.
Yeah, absolutely.
He decided to hire his personal friends. He was friends with Kris Tyson since they were kids and decided to stick with him, even though he was doing all of this sketchy stuff. And those personal loyalties.
Kids, you know what your weird sketchy friends are doing when you're kids,
yeah.
Was this a year ago? The MrBeast statement?
From April 2023.
Is that really a year ago now? Okay, over a year ago now. It says, this is getting absurd.
He's been getting pressure to cut ties with Kris Tyson for over a year at this point. Yeah. And only now has he actually made the decision to do that. Yeah. But for a lot of this information that's coming out about Kris Tyson, it's been public.
Do you think that the stuff that came out yesterday, like his old live stream chat reads and stuff, is diluting the issue by making it about him saying edgy stuff 6 years ago or however long it was? It's kind of like what happened with the Quiet on Set documentary, where they had the stuff about like the women's pay gap issue in episode 1, and then it turns into all of this absolutely disgusting stuff about bad things happening to children on set, and they're being held in the same regard, and it dilutes the issue. They're separate concerns entirely.
There's a lot of dissonance there and like a tonal issue. In the Quiet on Set documentary, they were trying to get you to sympathize with the adult coworkers of Dan Schneider who felt taken advantage of because they weren't paid the same as their male colleagues.
And the thing is,
in the same episode that they talk about like Amanda Bynes giving Dan Schneider back massages. And I'm like, these are two totally different levels of degeneracy. And to equate the two just distracts from the real issue and the gravity of the subject at hand. Yeah. And the same thing is happening with MrBeast, where people are reposting offensive jokes that he used to make in the 2010s. I'm not particularly concerned with that.
Yeah. The story was like that story, like in the Quiet on Set one, would have been perfectly acceptable as its own thing. Like make it about the bad business practices, but don't lump it in with something that's clearly the focus here and way more awful.
Right, exactly. Like even the fact that Nate mentioned in that video, we did work for his Twitch channel that we weren't paid for. That is not the same level of him sending links to corn to minors in his Discord.
But this is what happens with all such cases.
It all gets muddled.
Like with all such cases like this is you get bogged down with endless info dump, and then what happens is the average person who only kind of pays attention to this stuff gets bits and pieces of all of it. You know what happens? It becomes information overload, and you say, I don't even know, whatever. Like, I don't know what happened.
A lot of it, I think, when you have like a big dump that's sort of a cover-up, that is the goal. The goal is
absolutely.
To stop you from asking questions. The goal is to get you to tune out. We're seeing that in our political realm right now. The goal is to get people to like just jump in and then tune out and ignore everything.
It's like a lawyer giving you a bunch of information in like a discovery case and giving it to you unorganized and unfiled.
Like multiple boxes. That's a tactic.
That's a tactic.
That's a distinct tactic.
This is just the digital version of that.
Yeah. As a parent, how do you feel about this?
MrBeast is basically kids content, I mean, it's content for younger people. And so I do find it disturbing from that perspective. My son saw the controversy as well. I mean, he's watched MrBeast in the past, and he was like, this happened. It's kind of gross. I'm like, yep, it's pretty gross.
Well, at least he's aware.
Yeah. I mean, he's really got his head on straight so far. So, I'm happy about that. But it's not the first piece of kids content that's come out and turned out to have like really unsavory characters in it. You have that Nickelodeon guy that we were just talking about, the SpongeBob Nickelodeon guy. Yep. You've had
Dan Schneider as well.
Yes.
And there's endless examples of this.
You've had like all of the weird content that was on Blue's Clues with like the drag queens and the beavers with double mastectomy scars. This stuff has really been being pushed out, not just when like it turns out that creators are unsavory, but it's in the content as well. And you see that pretty clearly too. It's coming out of Disney. It's coming out all over the place. So it is very difficult to try and navigate the kind of entertainment that you want to watch with your children. And I think it's really key, like if you have kids, to know what it is that they're watching, you know, to like know what it is that they're subscribed to on YouTube and like to just have an understanding of that. Like if your kid ever comes to you and says, do you want to watch this with me? The answer is yes. I want to watch that with you.
Well, the crazy
Explain
thing
to me everything about it. You know?
Yeah, like are you
What
like
do
an
you
official
know? Yes.
MrBeast boycotting household now? You have to ask yourself these questions.
That's a thing. I mean, did it have an impact on the content? That's a question too.
Well, given that Kris Tyson was featured in so many of these
that's
videos,
an issue too.
Pre-transition, in the middle of transition, and post-transition, even though it was never openly discussed, that's still something that parents need to think about.
One thing we definitely talked about at my house was leaving your family because you've come up with a different identity that you want, and how that's not something that a grown man should ever do. If when you take on responsibilities, fulfill your responsibilities. Don't just give in to your own base desire for whatever other stupid thing you come up with, whether it's, you know, deciding to be trans or cheating on your family or, you know, just running off to do something else. You know, responsibility is a big part of it too. So we had already been talking about that when that happened, like a couple of years ago or whenever it was. We had talked about that, like, don't do that. You know, if you're committed to your family, be committed to your family. And if you're having trouble with that, you know, get some help, pray about it, go to church, figure it out.
Yeah. The unfortunate reality is most parents out there with kids who are watching these videos are not as aware as you are, clearly. And hopefully this situation getting some attention in the media might change some minds.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.